My modeling career faced significant challenges after my client labeled me inadequate. I longed to change my appearance. That's when I discovered Dr. Ramirez. His clinic, located 40 minutes outside Cartagena, was reached via a rough dirt road as the paved one ended. During the drive, the Uber driver's glances hinted he anticipated my hesitation to proceed. When we finally pulled up to this squat concrete building with tinted windows, he shut off the engine, turned around and mumbled a warning in Spanish as he entered the clinic. I was immediately enveloped by the stench of bleach. There was only one other patient, wrapped in bandages from head to toe, so motionless that I doubted he was even breathing. The receptionist slid in a stack of consent forms in Spanish, and after scribbling my name, she led me to Dr. Ramirez. At first glance, he looked rather repulsive. He wore a metal helmet for God knows what reason, changed you and put on the smock. The anesthesiologist will be here soon, Dr. Ramirez said in a rocky voice. I should have left immediately, followed my instincts, but I didn't. Once in smock and lying on the operating table, two people appeared with Halloween masks, a clown and a pig. Wait, what the fuck? I tried to straighten up, but hands caught me. Relax, they're just here to help me. Dr. Ramirez came in with an unhealthy smile. His eyes shone with joy as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The pig mask snickered from behind. The clown put a hand over my mouth while the man in the pig mask looked for something. I was held firmly on the table by two others. Dr. Ramirez hovered over my belly, ready to cut it open. His gloved hands fidgeted as if he could not wait to cut me. You sedate the grumpy, irritated Ramirez. But before he could inject me, my hand sprang out and knocked over the instrument tray. I grabbed the first thing I could, a scalpel, and I hit Dr. Ramirez savagely. I had cut deep into his arm. I then kicked the only light source above my head, breaking the bulb and plunging the room into darkness. Dr. Ramirez and his crazy assistants descended into total chaos. I crawled on the ground in the dark, using my hands to find the door. When I heard a child crying, I rushed into the dark corridor. I could still hear the chaos coming from this room. I saw another room to my left, and to my surprise, I found this little girl of about 10 years crouching in a corner. She was terrified. I asked her what she was doing here. The poor kid told me she was an orphan and that Dr. Ramirez took her from foster parents, not just illegal operations. This clinic was sinking deeper into the world of crime. I couldn't leave without the child. I took her and hid her head against my chest to protect her from further trauma. They're gone. I don't know, my darling. But we're leaving, okay? The doctor said my foster parents took money to send me here. His voice broke and my throat tightened, knowing that his foster parents had turned him over to a monster like Ramirez for money made me even more furious. She looked up, her eyes wet. You promise not to leave me, I swear, I said, squeezing her hand tightly. Not until we see the light of day. Without a phone, you can't call the cops. The only solution was to run and escape this hell. I heard them coming through the door. My eyes looked everywhere, looking for a hiding place. There were trash cans lined up against the wall, but most of them overflowed with bloody rag and tube. I finally found one that was empty. I put the child in there, cloth covers, and told him to shut up. I slipped into another one right next to it, avoiding any sudden movement that might betray my presence. I closed the lid just as their footsteps came out the back door. The air inside stank of rust and bleach, and I could hear boots squeaking on the gravel outside. He couldn't get very far, and he took the kid. Ramirez shouted. I held my breath, praying he didn't check the trash. The flashlight swept across the bin, casting flickering spots of light inside. I didn't breathe. Don't move. I prayed until everything blurred and darkness came over me. I pushed the lid gently and slipped out. I'm listening. The little girl was still hidden, shivering under the bloody rags. I called her and she raised her head. We waited a good minute before moving. I remembered the hum of the generator I had heard earlier. They were coming from the back. That meant there must be a service exit near here. We crawled down the hallway over broken glass and streaks of blood. The operating room door was ajar. I could see Ramirez inside screaming at his men. They all thought we ran away. We found the emergency door and ran to the road until the lights disappeared behind us. Finally, a man in a pickup truck found us and drove us to the police station. The police were called and the foster parents were arrested. They didn't find Ramirez in his clinic. He already knew the cops would be looking for me, so he ran off with his men. 2 months have passed since this incident. I work in a normal job. I saw Lucia in her new foster family last week. She is much happier and loved there. Frankly, I don't regret going to Ramirez's clinic. Without that, God knows what they would have done to Lucia. I'm sure Ramirez was stealing organs under the guise of surgery and selling them on the black. Wherever he is, I hope he gets caught before he destroys more lives. It had been a week since I broke up with Rafael, my boyfriend of 7 years, when the softball hit me in the face at 100k Los Bulicamides during our company's charity game. I heard the crack before I felt the pain and saw the blood. I had lost my nose and cheekbone. The ER doctor said I needed immediate surgery. My insurance approved Dr. Valdez, a facial reconstruction specialist with excellent credentials. They repeated that I was lucky to have it on such short notice. What happened next remains unclear. I signed forms without really reading them, agreeing to things I didn't understand. But I remember the calm voice of the anesthesiologist telling me to count down from 10. I lasted until 3 before everything went black. I didn't wake up with the usual post-op pain. The pain was sharp. Almost alive. It was like something was tearing my skull apart from the inside. I tried to open my eyes to scream, but I couldn't. My body was completely paralyzed, and yet I was fully conscious and could feel and hear everything. Hand me the little scalpel and remind me what he wanted to change. Everything, the assistant explained. Nose, cheekbones and jaw, even the orbital bones. He sent AI-altered versions of his face and wants them to look exactly like these images. Panic ran through every nerve. Someone had paid to replace my face without my consent. I tried to move and scream, but my body wouldn't respond. I could feel the burning on my skin, the tearing sound, and the hot liquid running down my cheeks. It is very accurate. To pay extra for the extra work, but that's illegal. No, she didn't consent to any of that. His form mentions corrections necessary during the operation. Legally, we're covered and he paid us. I felt hopeless and helpless trying to move. I concentrated all my will in my right hand, but nothing happened. How much longer? 2 more hours? Could be 3. We're essentially reconstructing his entire facial structure. I could no longer stand them cutting my face, filing my bones, and transforming me according to their unhealthy fantasies. And the pain kept getting worse. I could feel him working on my cheekbone, the vibration of the saw against the bone. Every nerve in my face screamed, but I couldn't make any sound. Then my finger twitched, and my hand moved abruptly. These constants are getting wild, doctor. Give him more crazy talk. A cold liquid reached my IV, but I struggled with all my strength, and suddenly my eyes opened. The surgical lights blinded me through the glare. I could see Dr. Valde, his stunned face above mine, scalpel still in hand. I had a breathing tube in my throat, couldn't scream, but I was struggling violently. She's awake. Her assistant grabbed my shoulders, but adrenaline burned through the paralysis. I ripped the tube out of my throat, felt it scraped all the way as I screamed, grabbed the instrument tray and sent it flying. Metal clattered everywhere, taking both of them by surprise. I rolled off the table and hit the floor hard. My face was on fire, hot blood running down my neck. "Melissa, stop, you need to calm down." I crawled toward the door, my legs giving way under me, but I kept moving forward somehow. I reached the door, opened it, and fell into the hallway. 2 nurses saw me covered in blood, with half of my face bandaged and the other half naked. They started screaming, "Call security, call the police." I collapsed on the spot. My cries drew more people. He surrounded me, trying to figure out what had happened while I was struggling. My coat was soaked with blood. My face was half made. One side bandaged, the other side raw flesh and exposed bone. I tried to talk, but my jaw didn't work well. Security had Dr. Valdez against the wall. Her assistant was crying, saying she was just following orders. Someone called the ER while another surgical team rushed me to a different block while they sedated me. I heard Dr. Valdez yell that I had signed the consent forms and that everything was legal. When I woke up hours later, a policeman was waiting by my bed. My face was now properly bandaged. The pain was alleviated by medication. They'd done everything they could to repair the damage, but the doctor's expression said it all. The police officer explained how hospital security seized Dr. Valdez's phone and found messages from Raphael, bank transfer confirmations, and dozens of photos of me edited with AI filters. Unlike my real face, the AI version had a more pronounced jaw, high cheekbones, and a perfectly straight nose like on Snapchat. He had hired someone to throw the ball in my face and bribed the staff to put me in the care of Dr. Valdez. As soon as we broke up, he'd set everything in motion. I knew he was controlling and obsessive. That's partly why I broke up with him. But I never imagined he'd be so crazy. The anesthesiologist said I shouldn't have woken up. The drugs in my system should have kept me asleep for hours. But my body metabolized them faster where terror took over. If I had been unconscious for another 2 hours, the changes would have been permanent and I would have woken up like the girlfriend filtered through the eye. A from Raphael. Raphael took 15 years. Dr. Valdez, 20 years old. I had 6 months of corrective surgery to repair the damage. My face will never be the same again, but it belongs to me the worst. It's not the scars or the trauma. For 2 hours I was conscious but paralyzed while my identity was erased. Because being human and real was too much for him, and there are many out there alive and waiting. Vegan had always been the popular girl in our school, showing off her gorgeous blonde hair and alluring smile. Everyone called her Barbie, and she wore that title like a crown. We were co-captain of the cheerleaders, which meant she saw me as a threat and tried to ruin my life as soon as possible. She surpassed me in everything, but what drove her crazy was my naturally fair skin and slim figure, assets she couldn't have without spending a fortune. So when she disappeared for 2 weeks over winter break, the rumors began. Immediately, Barbie Reagan had undergone cosmetic surgery and the results were going to amaze everyone. But when Reagan entered the room that morning, she seemed to want to disappear with huge glasses hiding half of her face, a medical mask over her nose and mouth, and her blonde hair slicked back. She moved stiffly and awkwardly, as if she were in pain everywhere. Things escalated when a teacher asked him to take off his glasses and mask. Reagan's entire body stiffened. She mentioned a medical certificate, but when asked to show it, she seemed lost. Reagan was rummaging through his bag when Tyler, another student, burst out laughing at the back of the class. He laughed at her in front of everyone. Reagan stood there completely frozen. Even with her big sunglasses, I could see she was panicking. By 12 and 12, everyone was calling her Loser Barbie. Someone had done a TikTok comparing these cheerleader photos to botched plastic surgeries. By 1 o'clock, there were dozens. I'm not going to lie, part of me loves it. And that, after years of making other girls cry, it was like karma was finally catching up with her. By the time of training, Reagan had disappeared. Coach Stevens said she came home sick. I ended up staying late to master a new choreography. I finished around 5:10, 07:30, when all the school premises were empty. I was in the shower when I heard the cloakroom door slam so loudly that the sound echoed off the tiles. "Hello?" I cried, turning off the water. But all I could hear was the tasting water and the buzz of neon lights. I grabbed my towel and walked out. Suddenly, I heard this familiar voice in the distance. It was Reagan. "You make fun of other people's misery, don't you, Natalia?" She came out from behind the row of lockers, still wearing her sunglasses and that Reagan mask. "You've all made my life a joke." My stomach got knotted. "Reagan, I didn't want to." She was shaking, her hands clenched. The light flickered and I could see she was crying behind her glasses. I took a step forward but stopped short. Reagan suddenly took off his glasses and I almost screamed. His eyes were completely abnormal, red and swollen, as if a blood vessel had burst in his head. She still wore that mask though. "I wouldn't have had to if you weren't there showing off that perfect skin." The surgeon said I could see her and that's all I wanted. She dropped her mask and I was horrified. His entire face was covered in rashes and stitches. In places, his skin peeled off, revealing fresh wounds. His nose was so weird I had trouble recognizing Reagan. His lips were swollen as if stung by 1,000 bees. She started walking towards me with pure hatred. "Reagan, I'm sorry. Everyone's making fun of me because of you." I hadn't noticed that Reagan had scissors in his hand. Reagan puts it down. The voice say I look like a monster, that I should disappear, that no one will ever like me. So if I'm a monster, I might as well act like one. She lunged at me and I barely managed to dodge. The scissors stuck in the locker where my head was just before. Reagan stopped, his scarred face twisted in rage. I grabbed my gym bag and swung it at her. She hit me on the side, tripping me. I ran, but the locker room was too small. She was right behind me, panting. Scissors rattling. "If I can't be pretty, neither can you." I reached the door, but it was locked. She grabbed my hair and pulled me back. She dragged me to the ground, and I saw the scissors rise towards my face. I raised my arm and the blade pierced it. Suddenly, I felt it slice through my skin and muscles, the hot blood flowing fast. When the pain came, I screamed. But I had to flee to save myself before she could harm me fatally. I struck her in the eye and she collapsed, appearing ill. I escaped immediately, leaving a bloody trail behind. Coach Stevens found me crying and bleeding in the hallway and quickly called for help, ensuring my safety. Law enforcement and paramedics showed up soon after. They discovered Reagan in the locker room, holding a pair of scissors, rocking back and forth while murmuring about wanting to look beautiful. Currently, I'm in the hospital, waiting as my arm gets stitched up. The doctor informed me that an extra inch could have been fatal as it might have hit an artery. It required 23 stitches to close the wound. Authorities stated that Reagan is being transferred to a psychiatric facility for evaluation. Her legal team might argue her breakdown was caused by harassment triggering a seizure. In addition, there were also failed surgeries that may have impacted her mental state. Although I believe she wasn't entirely herself, I acknowledge that others, including myself, contributed to her suffering by mocking her without consideration of the consequences. My sincere hope is that she receives the care she desperately needs. Furthermore, to those contemplating cosmetic procedures, think carefully, as countless fraudulent practitioners destroy lives under the guise of enhancing beauty.